protesters that are actually, pouring water over the fire as well as sand. What they're trying to do now is that they're trying to extinguish the fire so that this fire does not affect other informal dwellings here in this particular area. So it is quite a volatile situation. I can tell you that these community members are up in arms. They say that, they're fed up with crime in this particular community. I'm going to move. I'm going to ask my colleague Mbudzeni Bulaskoba just to move with me, just so that we can show you what is happening around this community. Of course, community members, Ropua, are everywhere here. We were earlier on Main Reef Road, where we also saw groups of community protesting there. We are seeing young and old coming out in their numbers to try and perhaps put an end to criminality in this community. And Ropua, they're saying that they're not going to leave here. They're not going to stop their protest up until these issues are resolved. Of course, we have heard that, they had met as a community and that they had alerted police, in fact, that this was going to happen. But they're saying that the fact that police are not here to assist them in arresting those that are behind the crimes in this area simply shows that the police are not servicing this community and that the police are failing the people of Kagiso. So those are just some of the sentiments from the community members here, of course, are still on the ground. But as far as the issue of, safety here is concerned, these community members saying that they're not concerned about safety at this stage. All they want to see is for these Zama Zamas and the criminality here to be removed, the criminal elements in this community to be removed. I see some movement here this side, some community members are moving in this direction. I don't know why they're moving there, but it seems like they are going back to the streets at this particular point. So Ropo, I can tell you that this is going to continue because these community members are saying that they're not going to rely on police to do this. This is what they're going to be doing the whole day. They're going to ensure that they do this and that they root out these illegal Zama Zamas. We can see just a few police vans here. Some of them, I think it's about 3 of them that I can see from where I am, but many protesters here, Rupua, as you can see, here on the ground, and some of them are carrying sticks, some of them are carrying machetes, and they are saying that they want an end to what is happening here. Of course, all of this has been really triggered, but what happened here, not far from here, where there was a rape incident that involved a music crew, and this is what really ignited the anger in this community, which says it has had enough and it wants matters of criminality to be dealt with. Of course, they're not this time leaving it to police, but saying that they are going to continue themselves. As you can see, Lopua, they're now busy here trying to extinguish that fire, but they are saying that they are going to continue with their protest.
Indeed, it looks like they don't look like they're going to be giving up any time soon, Mangoba. And you raised such an important point, which was actually raised by one of our colleagues here in studio, about the fire not falling onto the other informal shacks that are in the area and the safety of the families that reside in those. It's going to be very important to get the relevant authorities to the scene as a matter of urgency, Mangoba, but we'll catch up with you a little bit later on at the top of the hour when we continue to cover the story for us, for our viewers. So we're going to continue to bring you these sad scenes, and this is because there's been very little intervention over the years by our law enforcement authorities. Let me see if our viewer can still hear me. He is still hovering over Kagiso. Our viewer, if you can still hear me, have you seen anything of significance since we last spoke? And just give us a sense of what it is that you've been seeing. I've just been speaking to Mangoba Mkunu, who was showing us and telling us about the fire of an informal dwelling that is currently happening there, but also some community members trying to protect other shacks surrounding that one that is currently on fire. What are you observing?
Colleague, I'm just struggling with your audio, but we're still up here giving you the bird's eye view of really the shacks around Kagiso, where the community say they've had enough. They're still out in their numbers, although it's much calmer than what we got to here in the morning. Of course, earlier on they had shambox in hand, knobkerries in hand, and there were many pockets of hundreds of these community members just moving around in different areas. Some of them were in the road, colleague, where you can see even now there's still about hundreds of them, but at least now eventually the police did come at around 11 a.m. when we saw the first deployment of police come to the scene, really, and that's when it started to at least come to some sort of. But we saw, colleague, marching into the bushes were dozens, at least hundreds of those community members, and of course with them they had at least 12 naked Zama Zamas, which they were beating them with those shamrocks as they marched them through those bushes. In fact, they were doing a rigorous search right into every inch of the bushes that surround these shack dwellings and looking for more Zama Zamas as they went on to burn many more shack dwellings. The one that you're seeing there is just one of at least 2 dozens that we've seen ourselves burn down in and around Kagiso. So of course, community saying that they have had enough of being terrorized by these Zama Zamas year in and year out. Something that has been noted by the police ministers. Hence, they now have taken this action onto their hands, really, Colin.
Yeah, Mangoba, have you spoken to any of the community members and some of the concerns they may have had in the last few hours or so around their own homes getting destroyed as a result of these protests by the community members in Kagiso? It seems we have lost our colleague there, Mangoba Mkunu, who is currently at the site where one of the shacks there is being burnt. And of course, there is also some efforts by community members to bring down the levels of the fire. Mangoba, if you can hear me now, let me just try you again. Are there any concerns by the community members there about their own homes being affected by the protesting that is happening right there in Kagiso at the moment?
Well, Rapor, one thing I can tell you is that the community here appears very, very united as far as rooting out these illegal miners here in this community. I can tell you that young and old are out here on the street. They are all part of this particular protest that is taking place. But just a few moments ago, Rapor, in fact, we just heard stun grenades going off in that direction. We don't know at this particular point what is happening there, but we're seeing quite a number of community members moving towards that direction. Of course, this is where earlier on we understand that some of those illegal miners had been rounded up by community members. So it does seem that at this particular point the police have now come in. We're seeing quite a number of police vehicles moving into this direction, and community members also trying to run from the site of police, and there have been stun grenades that were fired in this particular moment. But I can tell you, Report, that there's still quite a number of community members that are here, that are out on the street. So at this particular point, it does appear to be a bit volatile, and we do see quite a number of community members regrouping again. Rapua, you know, as you can see there, not all of them are running away at this particular point. They are still there. They're still insisting on going to where those illegal miners have been spotted. But you can see the police helicopter there, Rapua, hovering around those protesters quite close. We're seeing one of the officers. We don't know what he's carrying at the moment, but it does appear that they are trying perhaps to diffuse the situation, which has really become untenable at this particular point. We have seen that there are also elements of criminality that are also happening here. But I guess Aviwa Mtila, my colleague, has got a better sense from where he is of what really is happening here as far as the police intervention is concerned. Maybe Aviwa, you can just fill us up on what is happening. What are you seeing from there, Aviwa?
Yeah. What is happening in that regard?
Colleague, I'm
Okay.
If you are on me now, but what we're seeing is the SAPS chopper, and it's dispersing tear gas and stun grenades to these community members that are now running in every direction. The South African Police Service is trying to contain the situation, but there are hundreds even inside these dwellings, these shack dwellings in and around Kagiso. That chopper even going as far as going into near the mine dumps there, where it continues to disperse the tear gas as well as those stun grenades. Not sure if my colleague Tamsanga Chamane is showing you the community members that are running around as this chopper hovers, moving, trying to move and swim in on the people on the ground. But of course, on the we are still seeing hundreds that are there near that shack that was burning earlier on, with my colleague Mfundo telling us that in fact it's one of the hive spots for these illegal miners. As you see, the chopper even going very low now, very low, coming into the community members, trying to root them out. Something that we've seen, in fact, yesterday. South African Police Service up in a mountain trying to root out what looked like Zama Zamas. I'm actually looking at this very moment, colleague, and it's this chopper hovering right above one person that's trying to run away from the chopper. It looks a bit stagnant at the moment, but of course those community members are now watching on as the chopper seems to be coming even lower. I'm not sure if it's going to land or what's going to happen there, but there's still a roadblock even situated is South African Police Service that we have seen on the ground here from around 11 a.m. Of course, the bulk of the action has been happening right from the early hours of the morning. It looks like now even the South African Police Service is chasing some of these community members. I'm seeing someone being taken into one of those police nyalas with the community members really watching on. It looks like the SAPS is trying to get a grip on the situation on the ground, as we've seen pockets of hundreds of people really of these illegal miners, and now they're doing their best to make sure that they're not part of the Kagiso community. As we heard how even those mines that they were being chased away from yesterday lead those tunnels that they go under and run away from, that the South African Police Service can't access. They lead the exit points to Kagiso. So it is a known fact. Even the Provincial Police Commissioner Enes Mawela saying yesterday that they have some of these addresses of these illegal miners and where they stay around Kagiso. So it is quite clear why the community is fed up and why they now resort.
Well, we're seeing police arriving here in their numbers and of course trying to contain the situation, which has really gone out of control in the past couple of minutes. And right now here on the other side, we're seeing some of the community members speaking to police, trying to perhaps get a sense as to how this is going to all go down. Let's just listen to what is happening here.
Like a white smoke.
Let us go there.
We're not fighting with anyone.
Because this one doesn't shoot.
Simple. For you guys,
but as you can hear, these community members really angry by what police had done just a few moments ago when they fired those stun grenades and tear gas at them. Let me just get a sense from these community members what they are saying. What are you saying about what is happening here?
Yes, why betubula laba bephezulu? Because sesibambe almost 30 something yabantu. Ngale sibambe 30 something yabantu. Wayibona sisebevalelwe, we understand. So laba baphezulu why betubula bona? So why betubula?
So but baba njengamanje kuyasha izindlu that there's a lot of criminality that seems to be happening here.
Yes, ukutsha kwezindlu thina asihlangene nakho, we understand. Into esiyaziyo nje ukuthi sikhipha laba sibafunayo. Uyabona? Ukutsha kwezindlu asinandaba nayo. And lana mawucaba mawubhekile nje yabona seyisithi abantu abathatha lento. irresponsibility yalento seyisithi.
But will you take responsibility for criminality that's happening here?
Yes.
No one is going inside.
Yeah, but now you're also saying that you don't think the police have been fair to you.
My man, this problem it was caused by the police in the first place. The government of ANC, we are here where we are today because of this government, because of the immigration law, 2 corruption, 3 bribery. We know people that have been killed, raped, and everything. Now today, as community, we try to solve this problem. But what they do, they come with their choppers and shoot us from the air. So whatever the government is doing to us as black South Africans, this government has failed us. The Minister of Police have failed us. We are sick and tired of people of Mogalisit. We want to see change. We don't want this government anymore because whatever we are seeing now, everything it favors the immigration, the immigrants. So we need peace and order in this country. So they can say we are xenophobic. Yes, we are xenophobic because we're protecting our country. How can one for standing for his country and be called xenophobic? And we are sick and tired of this thing. We want change. We want change now, and we want safety because as people of South Africa, we are not safe in this country.
Thank you very much. Well, you can hear some of the sentiments from the protesters here. Of course, not holding back, and they're saying that they're going to continue with this. You can see this particular gentleman holding a stun grenade with his hands. They're not happy that police have actually fired stun grenades at them because they're saying that they're trying to root out criminality in this particular community, and the police, they say, are not doing their job. They're simply failing this particular community.
Yes, Manqaba, we're going to stay on your visuals as well as Aviwe Mdila, but we're going to bring you a conversation that relates to what we've been covering throughout the morning, the Zama Zamas, you know, again in the spotlight after the recent gang rapes of those 8 women in Krugersdorp. And now police have intensified their efforts. You've just seen them getting there and trying to contain a very volatile situation that we have seen unfold in Kagiso, West Rand, and that is the protest against the crime which is allegedly done by the Zama Zamas. So to speak about this, we've got the former NUM General Secretary, Frans Baleni, who has written research on the Zama Zamas. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I suppose before we get into the specifics of the scourge of illegal mining in South Africa and your observations through your research, your thoughts on what's currently unfolding in Kagiso, particularly after that gang raping of 8 women that we reported on last week?
It's very unfortunate. Thanks and good afternoon to the viewers. My heart is bleeding for those women who have been violated so severely just towards the month of August. I just wish that the law enforcement agents would do their level best to bring the perpetrators to book. It's very sad indeed that people, innocent young women, can be violated like this.
Now, as I mentioned in my intro, you've done quite a bit of research into this industry of illegal mining. What did it uncover? How intense is it? And, you know, over the years, how much growth has it had within the South African context?
You know, as far back as 2014, I warned the authorities and all the stakeholders that if attention is not paid against these illegal miners, something terrible is going to happen in our country. And unfortunately, we experienced what you have just related to today. You would notice that the investigation we have done, it shows a structure. You have what we regard as troopers, the actual people who go underground or surface and do the mining. Then you got gangs who mobilize weapons and all those things, and they are territorial in their operation. From the gangs, you've got syndicates who are local syndicates. The local syndicates network with exporters. Exporters network with international buyers. So this goes of various minerals end up being exported, shipped out of the country. So the poor people who are seeing on the ground are not the mastermind. The mastermind are those local syndicates, exporters, and international buyers.
And that's a very important point that you raised there, because people will always think that these illegal miners or Zama Zamas, Mr. Baleni, work in silos or on their own, when we do have structures like you've mentioned. But maybe furnish us with some details around those structures. Are these structures run by foreign nationals? Are South Africans involved in this as well? Or perhaps some international bodies that have come to profit quite significantly from illegal mining in South Africa?
You're spot on. It's local and international players. Let me give an example, because there's a clear market for these illegal mining activities. Where the structure I've just related to, you'll find that they are suppliers of weapons, guns, and other forms of weapons. They're suppliers of gas cylinders, torchlights, various instruments which these illegal miners are using. They are suppliers of food, coming from big players, not just Mamkize in a corner. No, they're suppliers of cigarette, you name it, and liquor. So it is a big industry with big syndicates, which requires effectiveness of crime intelligence, our intelligence, and the police and law enforcement general to act.
Something that is very worrying that was also recently discovered after the brutal rape of those young women last week, Mr. Baleni, is the fact that it looks like young children under the age of 15 are being recruited by these syndicates to go into these mines and mine whatever mineral it is that they're looking for. That is very concerning, and I wonder if we shouldn't have more stakeholders, apart from just law enforcement, getting involved in this situation, because it's bigger than just the involvement of the police ministry, for example.
I fully agree that it requires that all stakeholders get involved. Let me also explain that it's not just only the law enforcement agency and so on, but you'll find the skills behind these Zama Zamas. You've got geologists, you've got mining planners, because these people must know where the ore body is, where there is higher grade. And they follow the higher grade because that's where they can make more money. Coming back to the point you are raising, I think it's critical that the communities get involved because kids are exposed, because these people who are ex-miners, who knows exactly the location of the shaft, of a shaft, geological mapping of a particular shaft. These are ex-miners. We're talking about over 400,000 people who have been retrenched over many, many years. And many of them come from the neighboring countries, especially Lesotho and Mozambique.
Mr. Baleni, what did your research identify in terms of the responsibility or the level of accountability that mining companies in South Africa have to take when it comes to the rehabilitation of mine or sealing them off completely when they've reached their term of life? And also the fact that government isn't holding them accountable or cracking the whip in terms of getting them to treat these mine sites accordingly once they are done with their business there.
Ma'am, there are two problems which we discovered in our investigation. Firstly, you've got these old mines who are ownerless. Those now has become the problem of the state, because the owners have long left the country. Some of them is our environmental challenge, which needs the government, the DMR in particular, has come to the party. Now, on the other hand, you've got the existing mines, where Zama Zamas are playing a role. So it's important that what we found is that some of the mines, when they close a shaft, they just seal the shaft with a concrete seal. Now these Zama Zamas, they find a way to dig where the seal ends and go underground, follow the shaft. Our suggestion is that when you close a shaft, you start from underground. The route which goes to the shaft, it must be properly sealed, cemented, so that even if anybody can come through the shaft, there must be no access which goes to the stopes where people can find to do mining activities. I think those are the weaknesses which need to be improved upon so that we can prevent this catastrophe.
Realistically, just as a final thought from you, Mr. Baleni, are you confident that even if we put all our resources together, Police Ministry, Home Affairs, Social Development Department and the like, that we can clear our country of illegal mining? Or do you reckon that we still have a very long way to go? And even then, we might leave some pockets where it still may happen?
I think for me, what is possible is to remove the severity of the problem. I don't think we'll be able to totally eliminate it, but when it has become so dangerous, because these people have become brazen, in the past they used to hide themselves and go underground, but the fact that they can roam in the street, in a township, in an area, intimidate people, they are challenging the law to say it is lawlessness, we can do what we want. So that must be eliminated totally while we are dealing with smaller sets of illegal activities.
Mr. Frans Baleni, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That is the former NUM General Secretary there, conducting a study or research around illegal mining in South Africa and how worse it's progressed over the years. He says he did indicate a few years ago that if it's not dealt with, it will get worse. And now, as he's just said, that has happened, and these illegal miners, or Zama Zamas as we commonly call them, have become more brazen, going out, intimidating community members, murdering them allegedly. And then, of course, that horrible incident that we reported on last weekend about 8 young women getting gang raped by allegedly these Zama Zamas in that area there.